Dive in. Okay. First of all, we're so honored that you guys picked this session. We're so happy. This is a big one, and we're just so excited to dive in. And please get your notebooks out, because when you write something down, you retain it like up to 80% more, and then you can always reflect back. I'm excited for you to hear from Sammy, because she's amazing, and we've had so much fun planning this. Before we dive in, I just wanted to say that a lot of times when someone's speaking on stage, that you look at them and you're like, oh, they've always been doing that, that's amazing, that's just not for me. And that really couldn't be farther from the truth for both of us. And that's really the undertone of what we're gonna be talking about, because that's the same story with networking for both of us. So we're so excited to speak on it. And we have some notes as well. So we're gonna go over our stories, and then we're gonna go into the training itself, and then end with the Q&A. So my name is Monica, and my networking journey itself began about 7 years ago when my husband and I we're both chiropractors, and we opened our office in a city where we knew no one, with every dime in our pocket. And you realize, you're like, okay, I built my office out, the doors are open, no one's coming. You know, it's that kind of feeling. It's the same thing, like you get your website, you enrolled, oh, right, where are the orders kind of thing. And then you realize everything is networking. That's really to expand your network, because if people don't know about you, they're not gonna come to you. So from that moment, we did the BNIs, we did the chambers, we went business to business, walking every day of the week to build our business, because we had no choice. And that's the one catch with having an MLM business or direct sales, is that you kind of do have a choice, because some people don't treat it as a business, but if you do treat it as a business, you will see the greatest success, because you don't give yourself an out. So we did all the networking things, we did open houses, all the things, and I did it sometimes kicking and screaming. My husband is extremely extroverted, I think yours is as well. And I would be lying if I said it was really easy for me to put myself out there, to meet new people day in and day out. I was also pregnant. And so I would have times where I was crying or really hard on myself, or just like, I don't want to do this. But I kept going, and eventually it becomes more natural for you, and eventually it becomes who you are. You have to cross a threshold, and some people give up before the threshold. And then 4 years later, I became a Crunchy advocate, and it really, really set me up to build in different ways and to build from the network I had already built. So I'm so grateful to dive into that. And yes, you can do it as well. Anyone can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If Sammy can do it, you can do it. So I'm going to hand it over to Sammy, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, hi you guys. So I'm Sammy Murray. My story was a little bit backwards. We also have a chiropractic office, my husband and I, but we opened during COVID, so there was far less in-person networking, and we had to get a little bit creative. And I signed up as a Crunchy advocate about 3 years ago. The first year and a half, almost 2 years of that, were really casual for me. It was something I did on the side. It was not my main focus. If I did do any networking, it was for the chiro business. It wasn't with Crunchy on mind, because like Monica said, there wasn't that pressure like there was with an in-person office where you needed people in the doors. So about a year and a half ago, I came to my first Crunchy retreat in January of 2022, and I decided I wanted to do more. I've always been really passionate about clean living, about sharing that with other people and helping women reduce their body burden. So I decided it was time. I want to reach more women. I want to take this and really make it a business and make that choice. But I knew I had to grow my network to do that. Now, I never really stood up and said, time to network. I didn't really have that language to it, but I knew I needed to make more relationships, and I had to figure out how to do that, because I couldn't just keep selling to my mom and my friends. Like, there's a limit there. So I knew I had to grow my network. For me, in the last year and a half, I've seen the fruit of that, and the main reason I've seen that is because I've let myself get uncomfortable. Right now, this is not something I would have expected I would be doing a year and a half ago, but by getting uncomfortable a little at a time, this step felt natural, right? Whereas a year and a half ago, no way. So letting myself get uncomfortable, both in person and online, has let me see the fruit of that. And you guys, in the last year, since I just looked, since last July, I've had 278 new clients.
Ow, ow!
So the fruit is there, you guys. And like I said, this started as a hobby for me. So like Monica said, if we can do it, you can do it, but it is a conscious decision.
Let's dive in. Okay, we're going to go into like kind of just some mindset on it. Mindset is essential. It sets the foundation. It sets the stage for what we're going to talk about. Basically, networking is expanding your network. And this is also for like building a team. So like, yes, this is networking to get new clients, but this is also going to be because your clients mostly become your team. So this is really going to help build your team as well. Okay, so this is a people business, you guys. We can't, again, get our link and be like, let's go, and we don't talk to anyone and expect to be icon in a day. That's not how this works. This is a people business, so you have to build relationships. You have to talk to people, and I know it's uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable for everyone, but we all have challenges along the way, but this is essential, and this is foundational to build your business, and at some point, you will learn that if you haven't already. I also wanted to say this because I grew up the shyest of the shy. Like my sister Stephanie here, she's not in this room, but she would have to speak for me whenever we would go places. And eventually I got to the point where I was tired of waiting for people to talk to me. And so I just started breaking that habit and started speaking out more. And if you're like me and you just are shyer and this is really uncomfortable for you, which is I'm gonna cater my story mostly to people like that, but it's for everyone, your voice needs to be heard. And you are worthy of sharing your voice, and your network needs to hear from you. You can't expect you to not share because Sammy's already sharing, so I'm not going to share with Sharon over here. Sharon wants to hear from you. So if you're not sharing, you're missing the opportunity to share yourself and to grow, but everyone else is also missing out on an opportunity too. So it's really of service to share and to find your voice in the process.
And just to add to that, Bill's point earlier that, 25,000 American women per advocate? There are plenty of people who are going to connect with you, whereas they may not connect with Monica or me as much. Use your voice.
Exactly. People don't know what you offer unless you tell them. How are they going to know about Crunchy? How are they going to know why you love it? How are they going to know how it's going to support them or why it's even important unless you tell them? We can't expect them to just find it on social media. We all have our own circles on social to where they may never even encounter Crunchy or someone sharing Crunchy. So you really need to tell people and not expect them to just find out. Like that's really, really important.
So I already mentioned getting uncomfortable. It's been a huge part of my story, and I think if you're here, you've probably felt uncomfortable at some point in your Crunchy journey. Lean into that, okay? This goes hand in hand with a growth mindset. Most of us have heard of a growth mindset, but really that's just letting your mindset be that you can change, right? If being on stage terrifies you, know that you can exercise that, you can lean into that, you can change. If introducing yourself to a stranger is really terrifying, that can develop, that can change. So be willing to let your habits or your fears or your strengths even continue to change. Be open to that. There's a lot of examples of this, but it might be as simple as introducing yourself to somebody. It might be taking a selfie and posting it. It might be creating a reel. There's lots of ways to be uncomfortable, but just know that when you feel that, it's probably something you should lean into, right? If you're feeling that discomfort, but feeling the urge that you should try it, lean into it. The other thing is that it can be exhausting to consistently be uncomfortable, so this is where you have to lean into your why. And if you don't know what your why is, if you're not sure why you came to this retreat, if you're not sure why you're a Crunchy advocate, I really encourage you to spend some time with that. Maybe you haven't done it in a while and you need to revisit that. Take some time, write down your why. I think most of us probably care about clean products and avoiding toxins, but your why might be different from mine. For me, I've literally gotten to the point where my why is I'm saving lives. So that's how I feel. That's the conviction level I've gotten to, and that's grown over the last year as I've consistently gotten uncomfortable again. So know your why, lean into it, and that'll help you get comfortable in the discomfort.
And then also with your why, and I really wanted to talk to this before we go into the next slide, it's important to be clear on what your message is and like, why are you even here? Why are you in this room? Why did you join this company? Like, it's really important to have that clarity before you begin networking, because if you go into networking, whether it's going to a chamber event or going to the grocery store and you meet someone in line, or you're on social media and someone asks you what you do and you don't know, that's the worst feeling. And I've experienced that so many times to where that pain propelled me to dive into what exactly I'm doing here and to get clear on it. And the more you can say it, write it down, even video yourself saying it so that it's muscle memory, so that it's when someone asks you, it's easy. Then it's easier that way versus, well, I do this, you know what I mean? Like we've kind of all been there, so being clear on that. And then your why is also your anchor to where it's always pulling you forward. Because you're gonna stumble, there's gonna be times where you're uncomfortable. That was really awkward, that conversation. Oh my gosh, I'll never say that again. But if you know where you're going and you know what your why is, it makes it like, it's clear what direction you're going in, you know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna fail, essentially. Many, many times.
Yeah, and to that point, you guys, growth and comfort never coexist. So you're gonna have to be uncomfortable and be okay with that. That's where we grow.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so relational networking, I love that terminology because I think networking alone feels scary. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Stale.
It feels like you need a suit and tie and a business card and a name tag, okay? Sometimes it is that. I've been to those meetings. I think you have too. Maybe you guys have. And those can be fruitful. Some people love those. But I just wanted to take the fear out of networking. It's just building relationships, right? We're doing it this week here together. We're networking. On my Uber ride here, the guy networked so well. He gave me a business card, told me to contact him directly to get back to the airport, right? Like, I was impressed. I'm like, I'm giving a talk on this, man. You should come. So it's just being relational. We can do that anywhere. Monica's going to dive into that a little bit more. It doesn't have to be when you're formally wearing a Crunchy t-shirt. It can be anywhere that you go, and it can be online wherever you're present, okay? So just be intentional. It doesn't have to be formal. It.
Oh, I should have had it. Okay. Okay, so there's basically 2 simple routes that we're going to go over that you guys can start with. And so the first one, of course, in person. And in person doesn't have to be kind of like we said, like awkward, stale, like what I noticed from, and then we have social media. What I realized when I was starting to network, which was at BNI and Chambers and things like that, there was no relation, which is why we really wanted to speak to that. It was like, hi, my name's Monica, this is what I do. And you don't even listen to anyone else. So that's, when some people hear networking, that's what they think of, and that's why they don't want to do it. But as humans, we're meant to connect. So actually, networking is connecting, and that's why we wanted to change it to relational. So we have in-person networking, and we have social media networking, of course, but you guys picked networking over the social media, so I'm excited for that piece of it. But I believe the sweet spot is both of them. Like, that's truly where my business has seen the most success, is exercising both of them, and same with Sammy. And then also, before I go into this next slide, I'm going to go in person, and she's going to go into social, and then we'll kind of piggyback. Find the one that you feel the most excited with and the most of ease when you are approaching this, but don't discount the other one. Because if in person is like, I'm a people person, this is my jam, I don't like social media, don't necessarily steer that away. Own your in-person, and then when you feel like you've gained that ownership of that, then kind of sneak into the other, and vice versa, because they're both very, very special, and we'll talk about why. Okay, in-person networking. Okay, so before I go into this, again, I just want to say you have to be clear on your message. That's the most important part, and I think you speak to that at some point too. Okay. This is my favorite way to connect. So my husband and I, again, we moved to a city where we knew no one. We opened a practice with no money to our name, and we hit the ground running because we had to. So the way that we really, really built our practice to where it is today, a thriving, very, very amazing big practice, is we connected where we already were, and we had fun in the process. So for us, that looked a lot like going to breweries and having so much fun and meeting everyone. That was also going business to business and introducing ourselves. And we mostly went to businesses that excited us. Like for me, if there was like a natural market or something, or a natural, clothing store or something, I would go in there and be like, oh my gosh, I love this store so much. Thank you so much for opening this. Did you open this? Or you work here, blah, blah, blah. My name's Monica, I just moved here, I'm down the street, blah, blah, blah. Or whatever you want to say, but connect with them and get excited about that. So start with the business you like. But these are just examples of things where you guys can start networking. Don't discount where you already are, because that also, if you're someone like me, I have another business, I'm a mom, I have a life, I'm going to be efficient with my time. So if I'm already going to be at these places, let's capitalize on it. So, okay, birthday parties. I was at a birthday party last week, and I met some new people. I got to talk to them about Crunchy, or who I am, that I run, a health and wellness community on Facebook that also, focus on toxin-free living. Like, that's kind of how I like to say what I do. Girls' nights out, meet people, just like get out of your comfort zone, have fun. Church, grocery store line, cooking classes. My girl Bonnie, she was talking to her financial planner, and who's a man, and she got to give his wife samples, like, because she was just there and she was just talking. Same with her dermatologist. Like, wherever she goes, she's talking. That's same with me. Cooking classes, salons, like your hairstylist, they want to talk to you. People want to get to know you, things like that. Walks around town, parks if you're a mom, chatting with other moms, things like that. And saying yes to opportunities. You know those times where you're just like, I'm just tired, and I get it. But say yes, because there's always magic on the other side of that yes when you're available to connect. And that's why I said be available to connect. It's not going to be every day that you want to talk about Crunchy or whatever, but if you're going to the grocery store and you're feeling that like zing of energy, like I'm kind of feeling it today, be available to connect and see what happens. It could be someone in the line. It could be you guys are picking up the same Amish butter, whatever that looks like. Who knows? But be available, you know what I mean? Instead of just being in your own lane. Again, we're in a networking business, so we want to have our eyes up and out and heart open.
Yeah. Just to add to that, if that still feels too scary, right? Bringing a sample, bringing up Crunchy specifically, this again is about being relational. It doesn't even have to start with Crunchy. It might just be the difference between being at your kid's gymnastics class, spending the 40 minutes on your phone, and looking up and making eye contact and saying hi and learning a name and starting a relationship, right? Sometimes that's the first step. It's awesome when those bold connections happen where Crunchy comes up, but sometimes we just need a tiny step of looking somebody in the eye, smiling, and introducing yourself. It can be that simple.
And that's always productive anyways, you know what I mean? Even if it brightens their day, that's very productive for like the world, making it a brighter place. So even if they don't jump into your group or follow you or whatever, it's productive and it also lights you up too. And again, I've had many conversations that were awkward during these times, but I've also had really magical conversations where people followed me on Instagram because of it or joined my group or who knows what else, or the relationship developed and 5 years later, they ordered from me or something like that. So you just never know. Just because someone doesn't order right away or jump into your group doesn't mean it didn't work. So just know, again, your anchor is forward. You're practicing. Every time you're talking, you're practicing, really. Okay, clean beauty events. This is something my team and I are big on. Events are huge for me because, I said at the bottom, this is the one time they get to touch and experience products in person. This is the most powerful, in my opinion, because you know, once you try the products, or even just smell them, it's game over and you're gonna buy. So this is why it's really powerful. So clean beauty events can be anything under the sun. Your friend's house, your house, a client's house, and this is how you get newer people, is like, you have it at your friend's house, they invite friends over, and then from those friends, you can meet other friends. Your house, it can be like your neighbors, like you're walking down the street. Again, this is so casual. I'm not saying this is what I do all the time. Hey girl, I'm actually having an event at my house tonight. Are you free? Do you want to come? We're going to have mimosas. Like, so fun. I know you're into health and wellness. This is right up your alley. Not to say that I do that all the time. Again, this is just examples that are easier for you to get your mind thinking. A local business. You can have events at local businesses. Vendor events are amazing. That's what Roxanne was talking about at the last one. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay. And local networking groups, this is really important. I feel like this is like, I really don't like BNI and I don't like Chamber anymore, if I'm just being really honest, but it served its place for me because I, again, found my voice. I connected with people. It was really productive. But it's like a threshold you cross. Like, you get uncomfortable and you begin. So these are just examples of things you can do. Women's networking, I think you do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which one is it?
Yeah, I live in Bellingham, Washington. There's a really awesome, and I know this isn't everywhere, but a really awesome female-focused networking group that's casual and not about business cards, and we have breakfast and we share. And it's been super valuable for me to go and make relationships, but also to learn how other women do this, because it can look so many different ways. And in exercising that, again, discomfort muscle, and just watching other women, what are they sharing? How are they sharing? It wasn't the stand up and give an elevator pitch. It was just truly connecting around a table like this. And it taught me so much. And so I've continued to go and grow my own relationships, but also just learn how other women are connecting.
and this is really good advice. I think I stuck it somewhere else, but I'm not sure. I just want you guys to write this down. If you're uncomfortable to connect, or you're actually really, really chatty and it's natural for you, either way, ask questions, because questions are what leads people to tell them more about you, and people love to talk about themselves, and that builds you that likability factor, and when people like you, they trust you, they want to follow you. So asking questions is really important, and that's what helped a previous shy girl like me. I didn't really want to talk. I never really talked, but I could ask you to talk about yourself, and then throughout that conversation, I would kind of talk a little bit, but they really liked me because I listened to them, and so listening is really important. Okay, back to local networking groups. So open houses are great. When a new business in your town opens up and they have an open house, that is prime time for you to go and like love on them, support them, meet other people that support them. So we also did that. I actually ran my own networking event for an entire year on a monthly basis, and that was a lot. But it was huge for me to start building a local community, so I'm always available for questions on that. And then things like common interest groups. I know Erica here on my team, she does a hiking group if you still do it. Yeah, like so just whatever you like, do that, and then meet people that also like that, because that's easier then. And then from there you can connect. And again, then when you connect, you tell them that message of what you do. And that can be something, if this is authentic to you. I know that Lily says something like, I help women reduce body burden. And then they're like, what does that mean? And then you tell them more. Or I help women detox their makeup bags, something like that. I personally say I run a health and wellness community on Facebook that is all about toxin-free living. And I don't say it to where you should join, you know what I mean? That's not my style, that doesn't work. That's what I used to do back in the day when I was doing other businesses. But I mostly just say it as an invitation. If they want to come, they're gonna tell me, you know what I mean? And then from there I say, I was actually inspired to create it because I finally found a line that was toxin-free and actually performed. Took 15 years to find it after I learned about the importance of it, but it was worth the wait. So that's kind of how I found my voice in that. That's what I like to say, and then I funnel them to my group, and it goes from there.
All right. So now we're going to look at the social media side. So that was a great overview of in-person. I'm going to talk about what it looks like online. But like we said at the beginning, the perfect marriage is a little bit of both, right? If you're maybe feeling like, okay, social media, this is where I can breathe. The in-person stuff is so hard for me. Maybe you need to lean into it a little bit, okay? Or vice versa. Now, I'm going to share a lot about social media, and I want you to be listening, be aware, and specifically write down with what you connect with. There's so many different types of social media. There's so many nuances and details. You really can't do it all, and I'm not going to try to tell you to do it all. But I want you to focus on maybe 2 or 3 things that you can take moving forward and implement. Because how many of you are already on some form of social media? Okay, yeah, right. If you're not, I'm honestly impressed, okay? But there's maybe something that you can do to just make that a little bit more relational and kind of twist it and put it into a little bit more of a networking vision, okay? So first of all, how do we do it on social media? Some of this you're probably aware of and have heard the different options. We're not going to dive into where you should be and which one you should be working with. We all know there's Instagram, Facebook groups, TikTok. There's even newer ones. I'm not here to tell you which one to do. I want you to do the one that you are most excited about. So if you're like, I love making these silly videos, TikTok is so fun for me, I'm gonna dive into that, great. If you love your Facebook group and it's been like your thriving community where people have conversation, keep leaning into that, don't change it, right? So just find what fires you up. Please don't try to do them all, because when we try to do them all, we end up being kind of spread thin, and then we're not being relational, which this is the whole point, is to be relational, not just to put information up and run away. All right? So I also really want to emphasize the importance of stories and DMs, Messenger, because this is where you can actually be relational. You can post a picture of, whatever your topic is, your exercise you did today, and people can learn from that and enjoy that, but they're not going to learn a ton about you from a picture. In the messenger messages and in stories, they're going to get to know you and build a relationship. I know it's different than in person, but it's 2023. It's kind of the world we live in. Like, how many of you have somebody that you follow that you've never met, but you feel like you kind of know them, right? It's kind of cool. It's a new world we're in. Lean into that. Be relational. Share your life, your whatever, your food, whatever you're passionate about, share a little bit of that, let people know you, and then have conversation in those messages. Ask questions, like Monica was just saying in real life we should do. Same thing on social media. I try to end almost every message I send with a question. Keep a conversation going. That's what it's there for. And I also want you to think about talking like you do to a friend. If you're on stories and a little bit uncomfortable, it can be tempting to button up and act a little bit more formal or a little different than you really are. Watch it back. I literally think, would my best friend feel like this is me? If not, don't be you. Don't post it unless it's really you sharing who you are, okay? And then be social on social media. Seems simple, but we miss this sometimes, especially in the busyness. The last session we were talking about have a limited amount of time. It can be tempting to pop on, post a story, whatever, run away. Interact with other people. They want to hear from you. Like their posts, comment, respond, wish them a happy birthday, respond to their story. Be social. This is about building relationship, and if you're never conversating, you're not building relationship, okay? And then online workshops I know can be huge, and Monica, you can touch on that.
Yeah, I love education. Raise your hand if you'd love to lead with education when you do this. Okay, I just think that's so important for you to always educate, because this is how my husband and I describe it, because my husband's like a huge super fan of Crunchy. He wishes he could be in the room. Maybe one day he will. He's like, I love Crunchy so much because before I had done a supplement company, and with a supplement company, it's like this vertical leap. It's for them to add something else into their life that they're not already doing. But with makeup, most or every women are taking care of their skin or wearing makeup, so it's actually this vertical leap. So when you just educate them of why it's important to switch over their products, it's easy. Why wouldn't they? It's not something new. It's not this vertical leap, right? It's this horizontal leap where it's just oh, I didn't know that. Of course, yes. So that's why I like online workshops, because you get to educate them through a series of a couple days where you have a couple of posts. And so this is something you could ask your upline about, or your upline elite leader about doing those or what they look like. This has been huge for my business, because getting new clients from them is like having things like hostesses in the workshop. So then they're inviting their network in there, and then I get to meet new people. So it's been a huge way that I have built my new client personal volume. And again, I get to educate. So it's a really, really big deal, even if only you get one order or one new person in your group or following you. It's worth it. And you grew and you showed up. So I love them. Okay.
All right. I want to touch on consistency. And if you have been to any training ever, you've probably heard this word. But before you tune out, I want to really emphasize something with consistency. You could be consistent all day as far as posts. You could post 100 stories a day on your Instagram and never grow your network. The key with consistency is sharing things with value, kind of like that education first model, right? That doesn't necessarily have to be about ingredients or toxins, right? Whatever your value is. Maybe you just post funny stuff, but that's adding value to people's lives. Maybe it's food, maybe it's exercise. It can be any topic, but people want value. That's what's going to bring them back to you and make them want to ask a question and build a relationship and get to know you more and what you offer. Dale Carnegie says, we get what we want by helping other people get what they want. So if we're showing up on social media just posting, I guess nonsense, a little bit of nonsense is fine, but that's not adding value to other people's lives. They don't see a benefit from this relationship. We need to go back to the value, okay? So some examples of that, again, just wherever you're at, whatever your focus is this going to help somebody in some way, whether it's going to give them a laugh, it's going to help them learn something new, it's going to make something easier for them. That means that on social media, you can't always just post a picture of lip gloss or lip oil or, daylight. We love these products, and we might want to post just a picture because we love it, but they don't know why we love it yet. They don't know why they should care. So building value, that's going to lead to trust, and then they'll learn, oh, Daylight, tell me more about that because I know you and I trust you, okay? That's all. This consistency being that resource that's going to make people want to come back to you. It's also going to grow your reach because people will share with other people. They'll tell, that it's natural that people want to share things that are valuable to them. And then also being consistent, whatever consistent is for you. That could be 1 post a week. That could be 1 post a day. I'm not going to give you an exact formula because I think it needs to be whatever's sustainable. But being consistent also keeps you top of mind. So as people, like we learned this morning, more and more consumers want clean, sustainable products. They're looking for it. So they are going to be learning from you, but they're probably going to be learning from other sources as well. That's just the reality. And so as they're learning, as they're exploring, keeping yourself consistent will make you top of mind so that they can go, oh, I've seen Monica talk about this in her group. I can ask her this question. Or I think she has a product she recommends when they're ready, okay? So that consistency is really key to then moving you forward, this relationship forward to an actual client relationship.
And it's not a matter of if they're ready, it's really when. So like that's why it's important to be consistent, whether you're consistent in your stories or your group or Instagram. It's like the first time they hear about Crunchy, it's a seed, right? And some people aren't ready. Like it took me 2 years to order Crunchy when I heard about it. Seed was planted, and then I would think about it every time I was like running out of my products, and I'm like, I'm not ready. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about it for 2 years, like psycho. And then I finally order because Kim was consistently sharing it for 2 years, so I would always think about it. But you just can't do that thing that some people do where it's just like, okay, I'm going to post today. 3 months later, I post, oh, I'm not getting any orders. Like, what's going on here? You're just not being consistent. And not everyone's following you at the same moment every day, so they might not see what you had posted last week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So consistency is everything, and it's a muscle that will develop when you become consistent. Like that was really uncomfortable for me as well. And then just becomes who you are when you are consistent.
Yeah, and for me, it came naturally to be consistent just in posting before it was natural to post about Crunchy. Has anybody else ever felt like, oh, I've been sharing too much about Crunchy lately? Anybody? Like you're like hesitant? Okay. Here's an encouragement for you. I'll have somebody that has been following me for over a year and that I interact with often, and then they'll message me and be like, do you have any makeup that's clean? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how have I am not doing my job. So be encouraged. I don't see everything. Keep sharing. It's okay. Okay, the last point on social media networking. So we have where you're connecting, you're doing it consistently. The last key is being authentic. Again, something you've probably heard, but it's because this is so important. There are so many people, I mean, in general, but online, sharing probably something similar to you, whether it's, health and wellness, toxin-free living, exercise, motherhood, whatever. There's other people doing it. So the key is to show up as you truly are. That's where people are going to connect with you, okay? This might mean for you that you need to stop comparing and stop learning from other people, okay? That might mean unfollowing some people because when you follow them, you try to do exactly what they're doing and you're not being you. So be you, use your voice because your voice is unique to you, and there's a certain audience, a certain network of women that want to connect with you, okay? Also in 2023, you guys know it, there's so many voices. There's so many people trying to share something with you or sell you something, and people are picking up on that. So more than ever, consumers, buyers, future clients, they want connection and they want trust. They're not going to see you just post something once and be like, sounds good, I'll buy it. They want to know that they can trust you and that what you're telling them is authentic and that you have a relationship. A relationship needs to be there. So this is key. They crave that. They require it really. And so if you're not showing up as who you are and letting them really get to know you, I think it's harder to make that jump to a client.
And have you guys ever felt like fatigued after like networking or after like kind of posting on social? You know what I mean? Like kind of burnout, but kind of fatigue. That is from not on purpose, but being inauthentic. So if we try to mimic, and this is what happens when you first sign up, you mimic your upline, you mimic what you see, but that's not necessarily your style, so you're actually out of alignment with how you're supposed to be sharing and sharing your voice, so you actually feel drained because you're not on purpose and connected in that way. So that's something that you have to eventually find, and when you are on purpose and you're sharing in your own way, that's when you feel lit up, and actually it's like, I could keep going forever. Like, I'm unstoppable. That's kind of what it feels like, but then you kind of come out of alignment. So anyways, that's just a radar. When you feel burnt out or fatigued, that you're you need to find your own voice and stop acting like someone else.
Definitely agree with that. And one more note on consistency and authenticity. This does not mean perfection. This does not mean you have to be the professional on your topic. Ideally, they come to you because they trust you, but trust also has grown when you say, I don't know, okay? So you don't have to know it all. You don't have to be perfect to start building these relationships.
Okay, do you want to do this one?
Yeah.
Okay. This is everything, because if you just make a connection and then you don't do anything, what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you want to put
all of
there?
them? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so follow-up is key, like Monica was just saying. You can make relationships all day, but then if you never share Crunchy and you never follow up, you're not really building that relationship. Relationship takes continual connection, okay? Actually, on the corporate call Wednesday, if anybody was on that, I got these stats, and I was like, this is so perfect. So I learned that 2% of sales come in your first contact with somebody. 2%. So how often do we meet somebody, tell them about Crunchy once, and they buy? 2% of the time, you guys. It's not going to happen. If it happens, it's kind of a miracle. 5% of sales come on your second contact with somebody. Again, one time following up, 5% of sales, not great. The majority of sales, 80%, come somewhere between the 5th and 12th interaction with somebody, okay? That's why relationship and follow-up is so key. And we're gonna dive into a few ways that we like to do that, but really having a plan is so important, and consistently showing up and having touch points with people is where then the clients come.
Okay, so text and a VIP list. Who has a VIP list? Okay, who doesn't have one yet? Okay, so this is what was really great for me, because I had done other companies before, and I just really didn't want to be that salesy, spammy person cold contacting. Like, ugh, just didn't work for me. Didn't feel good. I know it didn't feel good to them. So anyways, a VIP list is awesome for follow-up. So if you meet someone, whether it's at the park, on social somewhere, and you tell them what you do, and they're kind of interested, this is when you can follow up with them and be like, hey, would you like to be added to my VIP list? This is when I let people know about any sales that come up, so if you're ever wanting to purchase and you want to get on sale, this is a great opportunity. So just kind of asking, hey, do you want to be on my VIP list? I just let people know when there's sales or promotions, things like that. I don't think anyone's ever told me no, and then I have permission to reach out to them when the sales happen, which I think, is the last point, which is like really how I've run my business, is that's an excuse to connect. When there's a sale or promotion, it's like, hey girl, I know you're on my VIP list, so you're first to know, there's a sale happening right now, didn't want you to miss out in case it's on your mind. Yeah. Things like that. So building that VIP list is crucial, because it's, again, they gave you permission to talk to you, you know?
And just a note on that, you don't have to use a formal texting service to do that. I think it makes sense once you grow, maybe set a goal. Once I hit this number, I'll pay for this service. But prior to that, just save them in your app, right? Or in your notes, and then just shoot text to those people. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to stay connected. Email list is really similar, just a different format for those of you that are tech savvy or really like, I do a monthly email. I think it's another good touch point just to be in front of my community. And it's just another way to kind of funnel them, to keep them close, to keep networking with them in a different way for those that connect with that. And then one other thing that I want to make sure for that in-person networking is pulling them over to your social media, that sweet spot of having both. And so this actually happened to me like 2 weeks ago. I got a facial, and it was an okay facial, but it was a great conversation. We talked about birth and natural parenting, and it was awesome. And at the end, she's like, oh, I know you don't live here, because I was on a trip, but I wish we could stay connected. And it was so natural, which for me, this wouldn't have been natural a while ago, but oh, well, we can. I'm on Instagram, follow me. She gave me her card also, so I texted her, and now we're connected on social media. So taking that step, and it can be intimidating again, but just say, this was so great connecting with you. Are you on Instagram? I'm on Instagram. We should follow each other. It's a relationship, okay?
And that's exactly what I do, because sometimes you don't want to maybe talk about Crunchy in your first interaction with somebody, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it didn't feel right. You don't want to force anything. Make that connection. Oftentimes, one will follow each other on Instagram, and then vice versa. And then, because you're being consistent in your stories or showing up, they learn about it indirectly. And it's not like you force it down their throat or anything like that. So that is definitely what has grown my business to where it is today, is more that style. But that's not everyone's style. So play with that and see if that works. But you might rock the direct, and that is also great too. And email list, I'm going to touch on this too. That's not necessarily necessary. Don't feel like you have to do something like that unless you're into that and that lights you up and that's like feels like a green light. Yeah. But if not, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
just wait.
Pick and choose. One other that I've used with a lot of success, because I'm a list person. Any other people like that out there? I like to see and know and plan specific follow-ups, especially when it's so obvious, right? Like somebody's like, oh, 1.0 sold out. Let me know. Okay, sounds good. I will forget, right? And then the 1.0 is restocked, and you're like, who am I supposed to? Keep a list. I use the Trello app. You can use the notes in your phone. I literally have a product list for people that I reach out to when they've mentioned product, whether, oh, I kind of want to try that, or I'm waiting for it to be back in stock. Put them on there. Have a date that you follow up, either when it's restocked or 2 weeks from today, whatever it might be. I have another list for people that have mentioned interest in advocacy, right? So I keep a few different lists just so they're on my mind, and some Friday I have extra time. I'm like, I want to reach out to potential advocates. I have a list ready to go, okay?
Okay, and then I think we talked about consistency showing up, so when they're ready, like that is really important, because it's like in my city, it's like when people want to regulate their nervous system when they're ready, or when something comes up, or they're ready to heal, or they're ready to expand. Oh, I need to go to Rev. That's our practice. Or I'm out of my makeup. I know to go to Sammy because Sammy does that, so I'm going to reach out to her. You know what I mean? So when they're ready, they know who to go to because you have consistently shown up. So that's everything, and that's kind of they come to you. Okay, let's sum it up, and then if we have time for questions, we're kind of running out. Okay. Expanding your network is essential to grow your business. We already talked about that. Start somewhere. This is where people get so stuck, is you just don't start. And I promise you guys, starting is the hardest part. You just have to rip the Band-Aid and just start, and it might be uncomfortable, it might look ugly, but it's going to be beautiful in the end of it. It's a masterpiece in the making. Follow the route that inspires you the most, but when you do, then commit to that. That's everything. Oh, and don't avoid the discomfort. It's really your greatest strength and avenue. So like, if something really makes you uncomfortable, like for me, speaking in public was terrifying. I didn't want to do events. And then once I started doing it, I'm like, oh, that's actually something that is really important for me to do. Like, that's my strength. So pay attention to your discomforts. It's speaking to you. And have a follow-up plan.
Yeah, just that follow-up and consistency one more time. And I want to encourage you, maybe right after this, maybe tonight when you get home, literally write some of this down. Like, make a plan. And that could be something big, like I'm going to join that networking group I've heard about in my community. Or it could be as simple as I'm going to try to learn 3 names of other moms at my kids' school this week, right? Just start building relationship. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be bringing samples. It could just be that simple. Try to put things on the calendar. If it's social media and your new goal is you're going to post 3 times a week, put it on the calendar what days you're going to do it, maybe even what time you're going to post. That way it doesn't fall through the cracks. We know that can happen. So plan, stick to that. But like Monica said, just start. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just take one little small step, and that can be really in any direction as long as it's relational.
Oh, okay, and we already said the last one, but every connection is practice, so don't give up. If and when you stumble, this plant's like in my way. It's part of your journey, so I promise it gets easier and more natural, but like, again, most people give up before they even start, so they're just like, oh, I'm not good at that, when really everyone's good at it, everyone's meant to connect, but you just have to begin, and then from that, that's when you gain new clients, that's when you build your team, that's when you find your voice, all the things, so it's just everything's practice. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. No, any questions? We're just, Jen's going to have a mic and I'm going to have a mic. Anybody have a question for our panel? You solved all their problems.
Thank you. Thank you.
About online workshops, what has been the most successful format that you've gone about that, Monica?
What do you mean format? Like, yeah, expound.
I've heard like Facebook Messenger type events in your group. What have you done?
It's all of the above that work, you know what I mean? It's whatever you want to do, you know what I mean? Because if you don't do it, it never gets done. But for me, I just do like creating a Facebook group and then scheduling out the posts, launching them, adding people into the group, and stuff like that. That's been great for me. But I've never done a messenger party, so I can't even speak to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and tomorrow we're going to talk all about pop-ups. So get ready.
Yay.
All right.
Yay, yay, yay.
Any other questions?
I do. How do I approach my chiropractor? I don't
That's a great
even
question.
know what
How
to
do
say.
I approach my chiropractor? It's your chiropractor? Okay. So since I am one and you're married to one, this is like the perfect question. So I would just say, is it a man? No, it's a female. Oh, it's a female. Does she know about Crunchy?
She probably already uses it.
It's 2 doctors in one practice, so one owns the practice. She's not my friend at all.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so with someone like her, you could just say, have you ever heard of Crunchy? And she might be like, no, I haven't. And be like, oh my gosh, I'm actually surprised because it spread like wildfire in the chiropractic community. You would love it. It's right up your alley because it's clean but also performs. You know that clean products notoriously don't perform, right? You know what I mean? Something like that. But just ask her because if she's like, oh my gosh, should I know? I'm a chiropractor. All the other ones know. Game over.
So do you have like a display or something?
No?
In
At
your
my
office?
office?
Or, yeah.
No?
Neither do we. Just conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that answer Monica gave is literally what you can use with anybody, a mom friend, a chiropractor, your hairdresser. Have you ever heard of Crunchy? Like, that's just conversation. That's not pressure. That's not weird. They might say, yeah, I've heard of it. I'm not into it. Cool, okay, not your person. Now, maybe later. But then it's cool to see where that could turn into because if they express a lot of interest, then the next natural is, could I bring you some samples? I think you'd love to try it. And then it can just grow from there.
And then if it's a man, for anyone who has a man chiropractor that you see, because they're not a woman, what you could do for them is you can be like, hey, I know your focus is mostly working with people's nervous system and you really don't have time to talk about all things health and wellness, which is like the holistic avenue of the body. I would love to support your community by maybe having an event and I could really speak to the women on reducing their body burden and that their products matter because there's lack of regulation out there. Like I would love to support your members because I know you can't do that or you don't have the capacity or whatever. So that's how you can approach a man in that way. That's big.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Oh, back here. You're gonna make me run.
That depends on how, is it abrasive that they
Right.
come in, you know what I mean? Or is it like soft and it's connecting?
Yeah, and I feel like that relationship is foundation. Like I wouldn't maybe go to every chiropractor in town and just start touting this. I would ensure that there's a foundation there.
Or just go connect with them and just be like, hey, I just want to meet all the chiropractors in the area and just kind of like check everyone out and see like what's your specialty? What are you into? And that way you make that connection and then you could go back again and say, and also this is what I do and I would love to support your community. Yeah.
Okay, over here.
There we are.
So Monica, my story is exactly like yours. My husband and I are chiropractors. We've been in every BNI, in our like 3 communities, like all the way down different cities, and we've always promoted chiropractic. I started with Crunchy just when I started having my kids, not to make more money, not to have just to have something on the side. So a lot of times when I was in the office having the natural conversations, it works out amazing. My pregnant moms would be like, do you have any natural products for my kids? Oh yeah, I love, Crunchy, whatever. But doing it from home and social media is easy as well, but it's like the community part of it that's hard to promote Crunchy and not the chiropractic part. So when you set up your tables at events and all that, are you doing it specifically for your office with Crunchy on the side, or are you doing Crunchy and then some chiropractic?
It would be dependent upon my intention. Like, what booth is this what am I doing at this moment? You know what I mean? Because if I'm not doing both. Or if I'm just walking around making connections, then I'm just doing that. But if I'm having a booth, it's one or the other. Because I can't disperse my energy. Like, you know what I mean? That's spread too thin.
I would agree with that. We've had in our chiropractic office like vendor events, and I set up a vendor event for Crunchy, and even that was too hard because I'm in my place of business sharing my other business, and the intention was off. But I did learn that when I went to the women's networking group, for a few months, I started by sharing my chiropractic business only, and then I learned that it was okay to stand up and say, we own Connect Family Chiropractic, and I also run an online community where I share clean living. So it was okay for me to share it there, just so people knew everything that I was there to talk about, but as far as an event, I would go with one.
And just in general, if you're just networking around town, grocery store, walking or whatever, and you make that connection with somebody, you can actually, for lack of a better term, double dip. Because when they like you, they get to know you, they trust you, why wouldn't they do both? You know what I mean? So that's what we say, double dipping.
All right, can we give our ladies a hand for sharing? Thank you so much. We have popped up that QR code, so if you guys want to